Hi.
Alright, hello guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are brand new here, my name is Nikki and this is my book nook. Y'all, can we talk about how freaking fast this summer is flying by? I don't know how, but it is already mid-July. That just feels wrong. It feels like it's already August, but I'm not gonna let that happen. I'm not gonna let this mentality seep into my head, and I'm not gonna let it seep into your head either, because it's still summer. We're still here for the summer vibes, and to keep it going, I am here with a list of books, a long list of books that will help you stay in those summer vibes. I've got summer books, summer reading recommendations. You guys have been asking for it. I've been promising it, and it's here. I have 10 books to talk to you guys about today, all over the board. We've got friends to lovers, we've got enemies to lovers, we've got workplace romance, and a lot of things in between, so you can get your fix of anything you want while also getting those summer vibes over here all mixed together. I'm here for you guys. I'm here for this. I'm so ready to talk about it. I have 10 books, and I'm gonna try my best not to ramble on for 10 minutes each about each one, because we don't got time for that, but yeah, let's just get into it. So the first book I wanna talk about is one that I feel is criminally underrated. I read it back in January, and it's still one of my absolute favorite books I've read all year, and I still am not seeing nearly enough people talking about it. The Roughest Draft by Emily Wibberley and Austin Sigmund Broca. You guys. So this story follows a girl named Katrina and a guy named Nathan. They are both writers, and they used to be this super iconic writing duo. They met like back in the day at some like writing convention, and they ended up writing books together, and they were an absolute sensation. They wrote a couple of books that were just like bestsellers, but now at this point we know, present day, it's been 3 years since their last book came out, and also 3 years since they have spoken to each other. They have gone their separate ways. There's obviously some tension, there's some angst, but now they have to get back together to write another novel because they had a contract and they have one more book to fulfill, and neither one of them is happy about it, but they have to do it and they have to get it over with. So now, present day, we are seeing them go back to this house in Florida, in this small town near the beach that they wrote their first novel at, their first big hit novel, and they're having to kind of reconnect and rebond, even though neither one of them is thrilled about it, and they're having to actually work together to once again write a book that they hope will be a bestseller. And what I love so much about this book is we're seeing this happening present day, but we're also flashing back to, you know, a few years ago, the last time they spoke. As you're seeing them write their last novel together, you get to see how they were back then, how close they were, how they continued to get closer, like their thought process, their writing process, how they work together so beautifully. And this entire time you're trying to put the pieces together of what could have possibly made these two like go their separate ways. If you guys know me, that's like one of my favorite types of books. I adored this story. I loved it so freaking much. If you're a fan of people who meet on vacation, which we're gonna talk about that, don't you guys worry. If you know me at all, we're gonna talk about that book. But if you're a fan of that and you're a fan of beach read, this book is the best of both of those worlds combined times 1,000. I adore it, and the cover is just so darn cute. Seriously, go read it. And next, I want to talk about a book that actually just came out in the last few weeks. Maybe it's been a month now, I don't know, but it feels like I just read this book because I'm still thinking about it. Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. A lot of these summer books I feel like feel very nostalgic because it is kind of similar to The Roughest Draft in the way that it's two people that were obviously very close at one point that have gone their separate ways and are now reuniting. You might sense a theme here with a lot of these stories because I just love that trope, and so many of you guys do too. So this story follows a girl named Persephone, but she goes by Percy, and at the start of the story, she unexpectedly receives a phone call from this man named Charlie, and you can tell it really is unsettling for her, and that she clearly has history with Charlie, but she clearly has a lot more history with Charlie's brother Sam. Charlie lets her know that him and Sam's mother has passed away, and she's very distraught over this, and he's just letting her know, you know, we're having a funeral for her if you'd like to come. And even though you can tell she absolutely does not want to come, it is the last thing she wants to do is to go back to this town that she's had so much, you know, of her life and so many of her memories in. She doesn't want to go back there, but she absolutely has to because she was very close to this family, and she has to be there. She has to be there for them. So Percy goes back to this town where she grew up going and spending the summers. Her parents had a lake house there, and the boys next door, as you can expect, were Sam and Charlie. She grew up every summer going there and seeing them, growing up with them, and we actually get to see that We're seeing present day, you know, her going to this small town again for this weekend, reuniting with Sam, who she has not spoken to in many years. And then every other chapter, we're flashing back to past summers, seeing, you know, their friendships start out from a very young age. They were like 12 or so whenever they met, and then you're kind of seeing them grow, mature together, you know, become friends, eventually sort of become more, and how close her and Sam get, and her whole dynamic with the family. And present day, clearly there's a whole lot of history and a whole lot of something between them that is not resolved. And again, it's a story where you're putting the puzzle pieces together, and I absolutely loved it. If you're a fan of Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren, this was the summary, much better version of that book. It tugs at the heartstrings. Very coming of age, very cute. I loved it with my entire heart and soul. So next, I want to switch up the vibes a little bit and talk about Shipped by Angie Hockman. This story follows a girl named Henley. She is your typical boss babe, has put all of her time and effort into her career, her dreams, and hasn't had any time to make any friends, have a boyfriend, nothing like that. She works at this cruise ship company as the marketing manager, and basically she finds out that her dream promotion is now available. It's like the director of digital experience, something like that. It's just the perfect next step on her corporate ladder, and she finds out that she is on the short list for this promotion. The only downside of it though is she's not the only one. The one other person that they're considering is her work nemesis, Graham Collins. He is the social media manager for the company, and he has just absolutely grinded Henley's gears from the day that she met him. She is just very organized, polished, professional, where he is like the opposite of that. He's very like on the fly, just he's so good at what he does, but they just work very differently, and it just frustrates her to no end. And even though they're both really qualified for this promotion, neither one of them has actually ever been on a cruise with their company. So their boss informs them that they have to both go on this cruise together to the Galapagos Islands, because it's like their least popular cruise. And they have to go and they have to experience it like a customer would experience it. And then at the end of the cruise, they have to each come up with a marketing plan to basically generate more sales, and whoever does a better job will get the promotion. So they're enemies, they're work nemesises, and now they are going to be stuck on this cruise ship together, battling out for this promotion. As you can expect, forced proximity, every time it happens, things just get so very good. So good. I love this story. It reminded me a lot of The Hating Game, you know, with the battling for the promotion, the workplace nemesis, stuck on vacation together. It was just super cute. It was a super easy read. I read it in one sitting on a plane ride. Totally recommend it. Very cute. Next, kind of sticking with those workplace vibes, I want to talk about The Layover by Lacey Walden, another book that I feel is criminally underrated. I love this book so much, and I don't see anybody talk about it, and it's actually really upsetting. This story follows a girl named Ava. She is a flight attendant, and she's always been a person that is really just like a wanderer. She's never settled down. She's always been traveling. She's always kind of flown by the seat of her pants, and she's always really wanted to be a person that has a home and has a home base and is settled and doesn't feel the need to travel all the time. And she feels like she's at that point. She's engaged to this man, and she's about to go on her last flight as a flight attendant, and then she's gonna hang up her wings or her flight attendant gear, whatever you want to call it, and be done with it. And you know, she's really excited because this is going to be a great last flight for her, because it is actually a trip that has a full 24-hour layover in Belize. And you know, she's thrilled about it. She's going to go out with a bang, but she immediately is not too thrilled about it whenever she gets on the plane and realizes that she is flying with this man named Jack, this other flight attendant that she doesn't really like very much. Jack has a reputation amongst the flight attendants, and he just rubs her the wrong way. She's never gotten along with him, and he's just about the last person she would want to be stuck on this flight with, and ultimately stuck on vacation with, because they're all going to be going to Belize together. And this book really was cute. It was summer vibes, but it was a book that got a little deeper and really talked about life and like what's important in it, and you know, the way certain people think and what they want and dreams and what that really means. And I just loved it. It really, if you're a person that fears commitment but is also a total hopeless romantic, like myself, this book is the one for you. I loved it a lot. All right, next, you know we gotta do it. We gotta talk about some Tessa Bailey books. First of all, let's talk about her newest release. It literally just came out. I just read it. I just loved it. My Killer Vacation. Look how freaking cute this cover is. If this doesn't scream summer vibes, I don't know what does. This is a rom-com, but it's got a fun twist because it's got a little bit of a murder mystery to it. You probably didn't think I was gonna say that, but you know what? Tessa Bailey, she just goes there. This story follows this girl named Taylor. She is a second grade teacher and she's had a rough couple of years and she has been saving up money because she wants to take her brother on this really fun vacation. She just wants to unplug, unwind, have a little fun, but right when they get to their Airbnb in Cape Cod, she can just tell something is wrong, the vibes are off, and she's right because she ends up finding a dead body in their rental. She calls the cops right away and they feel like it's a case closed. Like they write it off. They feel like they know what it is. They're like, let's move on. Sorry about that. You know, have a good vacation. But Taylor just can't get it off her mind. She feels like there's more to the case. She feels like she needs to solve it. She feels like she needs to look more into it. And that is where she ends up crossing paths with this man named Miles. Miles is a bounty hunter and he owed a favor to a family member of the man who died, and he is now here to solve the murder, look more into it. And him and Taylor could not be more opposite. He gets in her way and annoys the crap out of him, but he also cannot deny that she's just as cute as a button. Cute little second grade teacher. What are you doing here? Get out of my way. I'm here to do my job and solve this case. And she's just so stubborn because she insists on being involved. She insists on making this her mission. She's always been a second grade teacher, and like, not that that's not a fantastic career, but she just wants to do something that's like brave and adventurous and different and out of her comfort zone. And you know, if she wants to have a little fun along the way, here comes Miles, sexy 6'5" bounty hunter. You can imagine what happens. It's Tessa Bailey. It's a very short, very spicy, cute little read. It's a little insta-lovey, but yeah, just take it for what it is. You know, it's a short, quick read. You can bring this to the beach, knock it out in a day. It was really fun, cute rom-com, but the murder mystery added an extra little twist I really hadn't seen in a book like this before, so I loved it. Not disappointed. All right, so if we're on the Tessa Bailey train, you know I'm gonna have to go here. My Killer Vacation was very cute, but these books, they're simply God tier. I don't care what season it is. It could be the dead of winter and I'm still gonna shove this book down every single person's throat. I love these books. They're some of my absolute favorite books. If you don't know, this little mini series was actually inspired by Schitt's Creek. It literally is so good. Tessa Bailey like saw some sort of muse in Alexis Rose and she ran with it and she did it so well. Like if you don't know, you wouldn't know, but if you do know, it's so perfectly done. Basically, this little mini-series follows the Bellinger sisters. I will start specifically with talking about Piper Bellinger, who is the star of It Happened One Summer. She basically is the stepdaughter of this really famous movie producer. She has never really had to have much responsibility in her life. She's basically a socialite. She's famous for being famous. She has a huge following and, you know, she's nearly 30 and she doesn't really have anything that she has to do in life. She just parties, she hangs out with people, she's in that LA crowd, and one night she goes a little too crazy. She throws this massive party that ends up all over the news. It's this whole big scandal. She ends up in jail and her stepfather is furious. He's done with it. He's like, you're nearly 30 years old. You need to learn some responsibility. So as punishment, he tells her that he's going to send her to this small fishing town that her father grew up in called Westport, Washington. And she's basically going to be there for a handful of months and he's going to give her a very small budget, but after that he's cutting her off and she needs to figure it out. And this is obviously like the world ending to Piper. She doesn't know how to do that. She's never had to do anything on her own. She's never had to work. Like, it's just a mind-blowing idea to her. So her sister Hannah ends up agreeing to go along with her. And right when they show up, she ends up encountering this man named Brendan. Brendan has lived in this town his entire life, and he just can tell right away Piper does not belong here. He doesn't want her here. It's a total like enemies to lovers kind of situation. But, you know, if you've watched Schitt's Creek, you know, like, really rich person shows up to this really small town, totally resents it, doesn't want to be there, but the longer they spend there, the more she realizes that these people are very real and actually care and are hardworking and that there's a lot more to life than social media and parties. It is such a cute story. It's such a spicy story, but it really just has like a beautiful message at its heart. And when a book can do all of those things, it just instantly shoots to the favorites list. I loved it so much. This book is amazing, but then Tessa Bailey just loved it so much that she had to give us another book. Hook, Line, and Sinker follows Hannah, like I talked about in this story. Piper's book was an enemies to lovers story, but Hannah's book is more of a friends to lovers story, which might sound a little boring, but trust me, it is not. This story follows Hannah and Fox is actually Brendan's best friend and sort of his co-worker. They're both fishermen together, and both of these stories, they're really different from each other, but they're both set in a small fishing town. All the summer vibes you could need. The best little rom-coms you'll ever read. I love them so much. I'll never stop talking about them. Definitely check out the Bellinger Sisters series if you have not. Okay, next, I want to talk about a totally different book from anything that we've talked about so far. Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This story follows the 4 children of this super famous rock star named Mick Riva. It is set in the 80s in California, and basically we meet all 4 of the siblings, but the main sort of character of the story is the oldest daughter named Nina Riva. She is like this super famous surfing model. All of the siblings and children are surfers in some form or fashion. They're involved in the surfing world, but Nina is like world famous for being a surfing model, and she's actually married to this really famous athlete, this tennis player. And at the start of the story, her relationship with that tennis player has gone a little rocky. He's very publicly cheated on her, and you know, she wants to just wallow in her sadness, or she should be wallowing in her sadness, but she can't because it is the date of the annual Nina Riva party. Every year she throws this iconic party in Malibu, and if you know, you know, it's huge. Everybody comes, and everyone around her is telling her not to throw it, but she's like, no, I have to. Everyone expects it. Like, screw my husband. I'm throwing this party. So this story basically takes place over the course of one day, but also many years. We're seeing what each of these siblings are going through. They're each having like these separate personal predicaments on this certain day, so you're kind of seeing all their perspectives of what's happening sort of leading up to this party, the aftermath of the party. We're seeing all of that present day, but then we're also jumping to the past. We go all the way back to when their parents met. Mick Riva, who's this super big rock star, when he met their mother, you see them fall in love, you see him sort of rise to fame, what that makes the family go through. You see each of the siblings grow up and what they've been through, while also seeing them present day. This story, it sounds like it's all over the place, and honestly it is a little bit, but it was so freaking good. It just, I actually listened to the audiobook of this, and I highly recommend that. I loved it. If you've read The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, the name Mick Riva probably sounds familiar because he is featured in that story, so if you ever wanted to know more about him, this is your chance. But this story really isn't a romance. I mean, you get romance aspects, but at the end of the day, it's really just a story about family and the importance of that and all the dynamics involved in that and how freaking complicated and difficult it is. And it's also a story about, you know, dreams and what you want, and how, you know, oftentimes you can lose sight of what you want because you're so focused on like taking care of those around you, and the importance of finding like balance within that. It was just so good. It was so different from anything that I feel like I've ever read. And again, it was fun summer vibes. It was set in the 80s, which I instant sell. I love a book in the 80s. The 80s is the greatest era. So all the things combined, absolutely loved this book. I love Taylor Jenkins Reid. Really, you can't go wrong with reading any of her books, but before the summer's up, I recommend checking out Malibu Rising. Okay, next, I gotta talk about The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. This book makes it into every summer book recommendation video and TikTok, but it's for a reason. This story follows this girl named Olive. At the start of the story, her twin sister is getting married, and she's very excited for her, but not very excited for herself, because that means she's gonna have to spend a whole lot of time with her sister's husband's brother, Ethan. They are each the maid of honor and the best man. She cannot stand Ethan. They have never gotten along from their very first interaction. He has just rubbed her the wrong way, and now ever since then, every time they're in a room together, they're constantly butting heads. They don't get along. But yeah, they're at this wedding, and basically everybody except for them two ends up eating from the buffet, and everybody gets food poisoning, including the bride and the groom. And it just so happens that their honeymoon that they were supposed to go on is all-inclusive, and it is non-refundable. So if they don't use it, they're gonna lose it. And literally everybody they know, except for Olive and Ethan, is sick, and no one else can go on it. So her sister is like, Olive, you have to go on this honeymoon. Do not let it go to waste. It is silly. And they're also the only people that can go on this honeymoon because it is booked under you know, the groom's name, and Ethan has the groom's last name, and Olive is actually her sister's twin sister. They're identical, so she can literally use her ID. Not very legal, but I mean, it'll work. It's just silly. Like, Olive has been going through some rough times. Her sister's like, you need this, go on this vacation. I don't care if you don't like Ethan. You literally don't have to look at him by the time you get there. Just like, you might have to share a room with him, but you know, go have a good time, go have fun, go unwind. And so it takes a whole lot of convincing. Neither one of them wants to do it. I mean, they each individually want to go on this vacation, but they do not want to go together. But eventually they decide to, you know, pull up their bootstraps and just go together. It's just like a week or two, they can get through it. And yeah, I mean, I think you can imagine what happens here. You've got forced proximity, you've got some fake dating, which we absolutely love. You've got, you know, two people that absolutely hate each other having to spend a whole lot of time together. There's gonna be, you know, some talking, some bonding, maybe a little bit more, a slow transition from enemies to maybe tolerating each other, maybe to somewhat liking each other. I mean, this story had some really cute moments. The summer vibes were great because it was in Hawaii. You got to see like fun little excursions they went on. It was just a good time. If you like enemies to lovers, if you like a rom-com, if you want the summer vibes, which you obviously do because you're watching this video, just read this book. Just go for it. It was good. And last, this book is like the book of this video. If there was a single one of these books I would recommend for anyone to read, it would be this one. I have made every person I know read this book, and they've all loved it just as much as I did. People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. It's like, do I even need to talk about it? I do, because I never want to stop talking about it. This story follows this girl named Poppy and this guy named Alex. They met their first day of college, literally, and just became the best of friends, even though they're polar opposite. Poppy is very like free-spirited, floating through life, wants to travel, see the world, where Alex is just very like content in life. Like, he wants to be a school teacher, he wants to settle down. Like, they just want very opposite things, yet in spite of that, like, they just get along so well, and they've always been the closest friends. And they started this tradition back when they were in college that every summer they went on this vacation together. And now, present day, you can tell, again, like a lot of these stories, if you're sensing a theme, you can tell present day they haven't talked in a few years. Something happened between them and they are no longer friends, they haven't spoken, but they're now having to reunite because Alex's brother is getting married and Poppy wants to go to this wedding, and it only makes sense for her to go to this wedding because she at one time was really close with his family. So you're seeing them sort of reunite to go on another vacation together for the first time in a very long time. And as we're seeing present day, them reuniting, this new vacation they're going on, the tension between them, trying to figure out what's going on, we're also flashing back every other chapter to past summers, past vacations they've gone on. We see them in so many different locations, doing so many different things at so many different points of their lives. You see them really grow up, mature, get closer. They're really a story of like right person, wrong time, and just timing and wanting different things and loving each other despite of it, but just things never quite working out for them. Like, every time one of them is in a certain place doing something, the other is in a different place mentally, just in life. Like, it's just one of those stories where like these two people are just absolutely soulmates. You want to just like shake them and like convince them of it, but they're just like stubborn, and you're growing with them, you're seeing that, and then present day, and you just wait for it to all come to a head because you know it's going to be revealed what happened between them, and you know they're going to have to ultimately address that. This book just speaks to my soul. I related to Poppy so much that it kind of made me teary-eyed at points. Like, I love her with my entire heart. I love Alex with my entire heart. It was just so good. The ending scene of this, like the finale scene, it's just one of the most epic I've ever read. I think about it all the time. Like, it was, my heart was beating so fast seeing what was gonna happen. I love it. Literally, it makes you want to go on vacation. It makes you want to like add a million destinations to your dream list. I adore this book, and I'm never going to stop talking about it. If you read one of these books, read this one. Great little friends to strangers, two lovers reunited sort of story. But yeah, guys, those are all the books I have to talk about today. If you've read any of these books, I would love to know your thoughts down below. If you have any other summer book recommendations, go ahead and add them in the comments. Help your friends out. But yeah, that is it for me today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Happy summer reading. I will talk to you very soon. Bye.